Hey friendo, Steve here. Welcome back to the channel. It's time for another Ask Wrestle Juice. You guys left a ton of great questions on the community thread that I posted, so I'm going to answer a bunch of them. A quick update on my little copyright claim video thing I did the other day. I chopped out the offending content using YouTube's editor that they offer there. They make it pretty easy, and then it's back to being normal now. The copyright claim has been removed, so apparently those few seconds of whatever were the thing. Anyways, if you haven't already, give this video a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button. We're going to answer a bunch of these questions here, starting with Sean Sterling. He says, my fiance and I watched the Rumble. She enjoyed both Rumbles, especially Bad Bunny, Shane, Sarah Logan, and Drew coming back. She likes Brock ever since the Money in the Bank boombox thing, so she likes that win. She's been watching for about 3 years. She's also tuned into the IWC, the Internet Wrestling Community, somewhat through me. While she questions some bookings, she mostly enjoys Raw and SmackDown and AEW most. My question is, do you think the Internet Wrestling Community was too harsh on the Rumble this year when there have been much worse in the past? So I agree. There have been much worse Rumbles in the past. There have been a ton of bad Rumbles. There's been a ton of bad winners. I do feel, however, that especially since with the AEW coming into prominence the way it has, I feel like sort of the energy level for just social media wrestling discussion has gone up significantly over the past year or so. And I do feel that this year's Rumble, there just seemed to be an extra amount of enthusiasm in the social media circles as opposed to years past. The idea that, oh, is Cody going to show up? Who's going to show up? There's all sorts of free agents out there. There was rumors that WWE, well, substantiated rumors, that WWE was hitting up people who had been released to possibly make an appearance. So there was a lot of unpredictability about this year's Rumbles, even though the obvious winners ended up winning, Brock Lesnar and Ronda Rousey. So I feel like expectations were abnormally high for this year's Rumble. That's just sort of the feeling I get from halfway paying attention to things. And I think given that there were so many stories that were set up this year, Ray and Dom is a perfect example of that. I always really appreciate in Royal Rumbles when in the build, they set up all these little stories and you get to see them play out. Why? Because these wrestlers who obviously aren't going to win, it's usually like you can tell within 3 people who's going to win these things. All the other wrestlers just need something to do. And you have all those great little moments, or like a big man comes in and starts eliminating everybody. And I just feel like those things didn't happen. And seemingly, according to multiple sources, multiple outlets, Shane McMahon showed up and decided to change everything because he's a McMahon. And Vince couldn't stop him from changing everything. And so he just went ahead and changed a lot of stuff. We never had that moment between Ray and Dom. There was a lot of other little stories that just weren't acknowledged. And then Shane comes in late and he's sweaty within moments of him hitting the ring. And then Brock ends up winning the thing in pretty dominant fashion once he shows up at number 30. So I kind of understand, is the internet wrestling community too harsh? You could say that about everything. The internet wrestling community generally brings up the, I don't know, how do you want to get, they put a lot, there's a lot of exaggeration. And I hate using this term, but like fake outrage, like, people go overboard with their criticisms sometimes, and sometimes they do need to dial it down. But that being said, the general sentiment that this year's, especially the men's Rumble, I thought the women's Rumble was actually kind of fun this year. The men's Rumble especially, it just, the stories that were being built in the lead up, apparently thanks to Shane McMahon, didn't play out the way they should have in the Rumble. It was like it was booked by somebody who didn't really watch the show beforehand. It's like when, I don't know, I remember there's one of the Star Trek Next Generation movies, the last one they did, and the characters weren't really acting like they usually do, and they didn't really give a lot of moments between those characters that related to the way they were on the show. And it's like, it's obvious you just don't, whoever wrote and directed this didn't really watch the actual show. I think I read that somewhere. I'm a big old Star Trek nerd. What are you going to do? Anyways, let's go ahead and move on here. I feel like the IWC is generally pretty harsh on everything, But generally speaking, I think they were right in this case. Andrew Logan says, how far out do you think AEW has stories planned? I feel like having a 2 to 3 year long roadmap, but are flexible to change. I feel like there are certain things in AEW that are mapped out. I think the world title scene is probably mapped out a couple years in advance, probably for the women as well. Seems pretty obvious the TNT title scene is make it up as you go along. And I think a lot of this stuff is probably mapped out pay-per-view to pay-per-view. That's my suspicion, because especially one thing Tony Khan is learning is that things are fluid and you can sign people. Like if he has plans on signing Keith Lee, I mean, he might have some ideas as to what he wants to do, but he's not going to be able to get those ideas really fleshed out until he really talks with Keith Lee, and Keith Lee's with the company. So I feel like a lot of it is probably on a pay-per-view to pay-per-view cycle. That would make the most sense to me. But I think there are certain things like the AEW world title scene. He probably has that mapped out for a little while. White Brownie asked if you and Larson ever consider reviewing the first episode of Monday Night Nitro and seeing if it still holds up. No, we haven't actively talked about it. We have actively talked about doing more retro reviews. I think that's going to happen pretty soon. And it's possible the first episode of Nitro would be on that list. So maybe keep an eye out for it. White Brownie, you've been around for a long time. Maybe we'll push that one to the top of the priority list. Let's see here. Next up, New Generation VTV says, what do you think is the biggest moment in wrestling history? It's one of two things. It's either Andre versus Hogan at WrestleMania 3, because I feel like that it's either WrestleMania 1, because that really sort of brought the mainstream to WrestleMania, that sort of thing. It could be the movie Rocky 3, which sort of introduced Hulk Hogan to a national audience by way of a movie. Could be Hogan versus Andre, because I think that really had a lot of enthusiasm behind it. And then I also think Mike Tyson and Steve Austin, that episode of Raw, that really blew up the Attitude Era and led directly to their most profitable years until now. Anyways, now they're making billions of dollars. Let's see here. Next up, Lance says, Steve, I'm simply not getting my wrestling fix at the moment. World on GCW is meh. Shane tanked the Rumble, and AEW hasn't felt the same to me since Tony's swole tweets. He says, so in your opinion, who has the best product right now? Is anybody getting it right? Nobody's getting it perfect right now. I totally get what you mean about Tony Khan. And there are some glaring issues with AEW. I feel like generally speaking, they have the most fun product. My personal favorite wrestling right now is NXT UK. It's an hour long every single week. They feature a men's match, tag team match, and a women's match every single week. All the characters, all the wrestlers have a really, really solid chemistry because most of them have known each other for a very long time. The wrestling's always great. I hope that COVID fucks off soon, because I want the restrictions to be lifted and I want them to pack that BT Sports Arena and get back to doing takeovers. I hope they go back to doing takeovers when they can. I just don't know. I don't know how long the contract is with BT Sport. And given that WWE doesn't seem to care about being international anymore in terms of like branches of their promotion, I don't know why they'd keep NXT UK around if it wasn't profitable for them. And I imagine the only thing that's keeping them profitable is that BT Sports contract. And I don't know when that runs out. So I think there's a lot unknown about that. I hope they go back to doing takeovers and they have those awesome UK crowds. There's no crowd in the world better than a UK crowd. And I believe that. Gern Blanston, what a great name. With Danhausen now coming out with Orange Cassidy and Wheeler Yuta, here's the question. How many best friends can you have before the term best friend loses all meaning? That is a great question, because I have several. My dad, my dog, Larson, my wife, my child, my best man, Jeff, who's traditionally been my best friend. I've got at least 6. My sister, I consider my best friend. I got like 7 best friends. There's the answer. It's 7. Mikey Goody says, how would you book Gargano's debut in AEW, assuming he goes there? I would want him. Mox turns down Danielson, and instead Gargano joins Danielson as a bad guy, and him and Danielson terrorize Mox, along with their students, Garcia, Moriarty, and the other guy they mentioned. Who else they mentioned? They mentioned Wheeler Yuta. There you go. Do that. Let's see. Orlando Wright. Do you think that NXT TakeOver specials had the best ideal pay-per-view pacing? I mean, they had the best matches. They were 3 hours long. So, yeah, probably. Yeah, I would imagine so. Let's see here. Honked Off John. Do you prefer a wrestler theme be a well-known song like Cult of Personality or an in-house creation? In-house creation. Jim Johnston created the DX theme, Stone Cold's theme, maybe Chris Jericho's theme. And then I don't know who created the NWO one, but holy crap, that was amazing. Those are the most iconic themes in wrestling. I love Cult of Personality, but I feel like I know AEW does some. They do the Pixie song and they do the Jungle Boy thing. I would prefer really, really good in-house themes, but not a lot of people can do those. Deep Voice Dude, in an alternate reality where CM Punk was in WWE instead of AEW, who do you think he'd be feuding with right now? If they gave him sort of a little bit of creative leeway and said, hey, who do you want to feud with? I could see him right now feuding with, I would hope it'd be Kevin Owens. That'd be amazing. Let's see here. Deep Voice Dude says, also asks, what should be the main event of NXT Stand and Deliver? The premium live event they're doing in Dallas during WrestleMania week. He says he's hoping Braun Breaker versus Carmelo Hayes. I think it's going to be Braun Breaker versus Grayson Waller. I think Grayson Waller is going to be the next champion, and that might happen in Dallas. Ravioli Ramon, what is the cringiest wrestling moment in recent history for you? It's anything involving Dan Lambert. Freak Fox Vivo says, if there was one Wrestling News Now rumor you can make a reality, which would it be and why? Let's take a look at Wrestling News Now really quick, and I'll give you my answer. Let's see here. I'm going to load this up. Wrestling News Now. It would be Vince. This is just 2 days ago. Just 2 days ago, Vince McMahon mad at Brock. No, it would be this. Roman Reigns and no, it would be this. Big E and Becky Lynch dating. It'd be that for sure. What a wonderful couple that would be. That'd be awesome. Let's see here. Arnold Estrada. Do you think NXT 2.0 will pull in lower ratings on Sci-Fi as opposed to USA Network? Yeah, it's gonna be cut in half. It'll be lucky to get 300,000. Yeah, it'll probably do 400,000. Ryan Carroll, thoughts and predictions on Danielson's offer to Mox. A bunch of you asked about Danielson and Mox and that thing. My prediction, it's going to lead to a match at Revolution. My hope, my desire is that they're a new two-man power trip and they spend the summer as champion, TNT champion, and tag champs. I would love that. I wish they would do that. Have some balls, Tony. Do it. The Jaeger bomb. Should kayfabe outside the arena still be around these days? If the wrestler wants to do that. If the wrestler in kayfabe has a broken leg, but they really don't. Sure. Maybe. Do it. If it's not too much of a hassle. Just don't break kayfabe. I don't think it's necessary, though. Undrifted Pop. What happens to Bianca if Ronda challenges Becky? She's going to be in like the women's Mania Rumble, I guess. I don't know. I really don't know. I hope she does something great. I think Ronda's going to challenge Charlotte, though. I think Bianca's going to take that title off Becky at Mania. We're going to end on this one. Jedi Bob says, do you feel you should morally stop watching WWE? After WWE for years now have insulted the fans, rarely have good storylines, and use blood money from Saudi. Morally, I'm fine watching WWE because I don't think there's a moral consumption of any entertainment. AEW's not clean. Movie studios aren't clean. Television studios aren't clean. Disney's not clean. Nobody's clean. Nobody's clean. There is no moral consumption of anything. The cell phone isn't clean. That's my belief. We all just have to live with that. Lest we move to the woods and get off the grid. Yes, WWE has been fairly egregious in some of their business practices. However, I still enjoy wrestling, and that's the main place where I get wrestling, and I still enjoy a lot of their product. I like a lot of their matches. I like NXT UK. I like some of what I see on NXT 2.0. I like some of what I see on Raw. I like SmackDown. It's not all bad. As far as the morality aspect, I think it's naive to think that WWE is the lone entertainment outlet that there's moral questions about, that there's ethical quandaries about. That's my take on it. I think it's yeah. Nobody's clean, man, except for me. Sadly, Gypsy's not here today. She's in my child's room on her bed, sleeping. I had a long walk this morning. Check out this other video over here. Be sure to sub to the channel. Check out this other channel, Friendo Club TV. It's a lot of fun.